by one. Drone strikes have long been reported in Pakistan and Yemen, but now there's news that a week ago, the U.S. drone aircraft fired on 2 leaders of the Somali organization Al-Shabaab.
President Obama is sending 100 combat-equipped troops to Central Africa to advise local forces on getting rid of one of the continent's most vicious operatives, Joseph Kony, the head of the Lord's Resistance Army, a group responsible for atrocities across the region. It's the first open deployment of U.S. ground combat power to Africa since the Black Hawk Down incident in Somalia in the 1990s that killed 18 troops. U.S. troops may wind up now in Uganda, South Sudan, the Central African Republic, and the Democratic Republic of the Congo. It's part of a growing military effort to engage in Africa.
Finish off Iran.
The absolute right to refuse to take part in these criminal wars, and that's the right Just before Christmas, the president made the decision to end America's troop presence in Syria. His rationale was simple. We are there to defeat ISIS. ISIS has been crushed. Time to declare victory and go home. Makes sense? No, not in Washington. People here lost control. America is not allowed to withdraw from any place ever. Wherever American troops go, they must remain until the end, whatever that is.
Well, there's so many foolish things this man has done, but this ranks pretty high.
A decision that is dangerous. And a decision that is a Christmas present to Vladimir Putin.
Giving a huge Christmas present to Putin and to Iran.
I couldn't disagree more with this decision. It's a terrible decision.
I think this will be considered one of the worst foreign policy blunders of this century.
These people are too dumb to govern, but they're governing nonetheless. They will get their way, potentially, despite the fact none of them is present. Only the president decides what our troops do, but they may win. Recently, Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina boasted that the president had been convinced to pause the withdrawal of American troops from Syria. No doubt the next objective is making that pause permanent. What next? Douglas McGregor watches carefully. He's a retired U.S. Army colonel, author of the terrific book, Margin of Victory. He joins us tonight. Colonel, thank you very much for coming on.
Sure.
So if you believe in civilian control of the military, it should be as simple as the president saying, this is what we're going to do. But it doesn't seem to be that simple.
No, I think there's a problem. And you got to remember that most of your senior officers are products of the Clinton, Bush, Obama era. So they have a lot invested in this. And remember that the people who live in the 7 zip codes in and around Washington, D.C. have all become millionaires as a result of their investment in these failed operations.
That's not a talking point. That's literally true.
Yes, of course. So you put the two together and you have a lot of resistance to ending something that's been profitable for them. It hasn't been profitable for the American people. It's been a disaster. Trillions in dollars in debt over the last 17 years, thousands of people killed and wounded. And for what? The answer is not much.
It just seems like if you're looking for a crisis, a constitutional crisis, or something that would undermine democracy as we practice it for 240 years, it's the idea of the unelected subverting the power of the elected, right? I mean, isn't that... Well, that's a democratic by definition.
The problem is that the unelected are being supported by many of the elected to obstruct this decision to leave. There's another reason for this, in addition to the problem with money. Historically, when we leave, as we did when we left Vietnam, we're out permanently.
Yeah.
People know once we leave Syria, once we get completely out of Iraq, once we get completely out of Afghanistan, it's over. And President Trump is going to do that. That's very clear. This pause is just that. It is a pause. We had to get out of northern Syria quickly. And the reason for that is simply there were tens of thousands of Turkish troops poised to attack the Kurds, the terrorists who have been attacking Turkey and northern Syria. We got the Syrian government to go in there. We got out. Now we have created an enormous problem for Mr. Putin, because Mr. Putin has cultivated the Turks. Mr. Putin has also cultivated his Iranian and Syrian allies. He's got to make a choice. Does he allow the Turks into Syria? Then he loses his position with the Syrians and the Iranians. So the notion that Mr. Putin has somehow or another won something is absurd. This has been a very clever move on the part of the president.
So if you see like 6 or 7 senators and talking heads in a row repeating the same talking point like robots, this is a Christmas present for Putin.
Right.
That's like prima facie evidence that they're done, right?
Well, you could say stupid, but obviously they're briefed by only one side, and that side has no interest in the truth. The truth is that by getting out of the way, we have eliminated the consensus that was holding these various diverse partners together. There is no reason why the Turks, the Russians, the Iranians should cooperate at all, and that's a good thing.
It is a good thing. Colonel, thank you very much.
Sure, thank you.
Great to see you.
As a realist, I'm not naive about the world. It can be a dangerous place, and that's one of the reasons why we have to have a strong national defense. And it sometimes means we have to actually use our military power against other countries and other organizations that might threaten us or that have attacked us. That's the reality of the world. But we really do need to think about a foreign policy that is careful to focus on our interests and is cognizant of those human costs. And I think that it isn't being mushy-headed to say, look, there are people, real people harmed by our activities. You can think about those soldiers killed overseas. Now, it's one thing if they're killed in a war like World War II, a war that was necessary for America to fight for its safety against a really bad regime like Nazi Germany. And another thing to think about, a situation where we're trying to engage in regime change against a country that offers very little threat to the United States and may be a bad regime, like in the case of Saddam Hussein's Iraq, but a regime that has not directly attacked us and is not necessarily a threat to core American interests. So we need to think hard about what those costs would be in that situation. And the human costs are quite powerful, and we can see that here in America.